So in this segment, we're going to be talking about Brandon Lewis claiming that the legislation to scrap parts of the protocol will not breach international law. I think it was Brandon Lewis who said about the internal market bill, it would breach international law in a very limited and specific way. I seem to remember it being him. He also called the EU delusional as well, which not very great. But so the Northern Ireland Secretary Brandon Lewis insisted the legislation won't break international law, but stops short of committing to publish the full legal advice Cabinet has received. The Cabinet are very adamant that they won't publish the full legal advice, but they should give us a summary of it. So I'm waiting for that to actually come out, because it was meant to come out Monday of this week. The Northern Ireland Secretary said the new legislation to be introduced to Parliament would be lawful and correct. I mean, I have my doubts. However, the claim has been challenged by both the Labour Party and Sinn Féin President Mary Lou McDonald, who said Lewis was talking through his hat. We'll be talking about that interview at another point. Asked if the new legislation will be a breach of international law, Mr. Lewis said, we're going to be delivering this within international law and putting absolute primacy the Belfast Good Friday Agreement in all three strands. So once again, they're arguing that they're doing this to protect the Good Friday Agreement when they're really not. This is all to do with Stormont being closed, even though Stormont's been closed in years gone by, and the British government barely said anything about it. This is to appease the DUP, but more importantly, this is to appease the backbenchers, who really don't like the Northern Ireland Protocol because it kind of stops the UK generally deregulating. Because it cuts off trade with Northern Ireland. These people don't really care about Northern Ireland. It's Michael Gove, I think, who said the Northern Ireland Protocol is just a massive surrender by the British government. They talk about not just north-south but east-west, and obviously our focus will be restoring on the institutional Stormont, but the thing is, this legislation alone doesn't even resolve the issue, because the DUP want the legislation to be used before they go back into Stormont, especially since without the government in Stormont being formed, the Assembly, there'll be another election within 6 months. This legislation could take over a year to be passed. I mean, it's not really going to do it, is it? Brandon Lewis appeared to sidestep a question on whether the government will publish the legal advice it has received. Lewis said, we will set out the government's legal position on that so people can see our logic and understanding of that, and I'm confident that people will be able to see, as I say, that is within international law. And again, their arguments are really flimsy. I'm no expert in international law, so there's not a ton going over point trying to look into the crux of what they're arguing, but it's just ridiculous. So Lewis accused the EU of being disingenuous about offering flexibilities on the protocol. He told the BBC Sunday morning programme what they've been saying and have been reported as saying is that they're offering flexibilities when they are not. I mean, clearly my G hasn't read the October proposals. Is what the EU are offering is some flexibilities based on a fully implemented protocol. That's not true, because the EU knows we can't fully implement the protocol. They know that. We don't have the facilities to do that. What they are offering is cuts to the existing checks going on and cuts to the existing paperwork that is being checked, as far as I'm aware, as long as they get more access to the live data. That's about it. So, to argue that they're offering flexibilities on a fully implemented protocol doesn't make sense, because that's a stupid thing to offer in the first place. You're saying, we're going to ask for more checks than you're doing now, but we're going to cut the amount of checks we want in the end. That doesn't make sense. He said that would actually be worse than the situation we've got going today. And, when I read the October proposals, it does envision, in my opinion, when I read it anyways, it does envision that the protocol will be implemented fully, but not right now. And the October proposals cut the amount of checks. They do ask for more border posts and facilities to be set up to help with the checks, but it also cut the amount of checks that are needed and also the amount of paperwork that's checked as well. Lewis added, so I do think they've been disingenuous in suggesting they're being flexible when in fact they've not shown the flexibility. This guy, man, honestly, he's a joker. Absolute joker. This cabinet is probably full of the most talentless hacks I've ever seen. I'm tempted at some point when I get time, when the news cycle dies down a bit, to do a video on, out of all the Tories from now to 2010, who would I pick in my cabinet? Out of all of them, because these guys are the biggest bunch of jokers I've ever seen. You got Shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves telling ITV that although she has not seen the legislation, this is before the draft legislation was published, she said it appears as though the government plans to break international law. The way to resolve the protocol is to negotiate with our partners in the European Union rather than unilaterally break international law, she said. I mean, it shouldn't have to be said, but she's right. This will only get solved through negotiations. Sinn Féin President Mary Lou McDonald said the protocol is working in its current form, and here you have the largest party in that should be in Stormont really once it's open. You have the the First Minister, well, she's not the First Minister, but the largest party in Stormont, effectively saying the protocol is working, undermining the British government. You have the majority of MLAs that are supportive of the protocol. How can the government then go against the wishes of the electorate in Northern Ireland as well as its elected officials? She added that the Tory government is proposing to do is breaching international law is to create huge damage to the northern economy, to the Irish economy, and that's what their goal is. Because they don't care about Ireland. Ireland's a foreign state to them. But what they also don't care about is Northern Ireland, because the protocol will do a lot of economic damage to Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland is actually doing okay economically speaking compared to the rest of GB. The only bit of GB that's doing well is London, because services have gone up by almost 8%. Everywhere else is struggling. She goes on to say they propose to breach the international law and on an agenda of undermining, attacking and damaging the Good Friday Agreement. And what I think all of these politicians should be asked, right, is if you're in the government side, is how does this protect the Good Friday Agreement? When the Good Friday Agreement is designed to stop a hard border in the island of Ireland, how do you avoid that situation arising? Obviously the government are going to lie about it, but get them on record about lying about it. So when this thing goes to court, you have all the evidence you need. And for those who are against breaching the protocol, ask them, how does this breach the Good Friday Agreement? The British government has refused to engage, has not been constructive, has sought a destructive path, and is now proposing to introduce legislation that will undoubtedly breach international law. This is still MacDonald speaking. She says, and against the expressed democratic wishes of the people in the north of Ireland who went to the polls, who made their democratic decision, and who have returned a majority of members to support the protocol. I mean, what more can you say? She's 100% correct. The only party that actually looked decent in this scenario really are Sinn Féin, because they're not fighting. They're not pushing for a united Ireland. They could say, look, the British government have lied to the people in Northern Ireland. That's why we should get a united Ireland. They're not pushing that. What they're saying is we deserve better in Northern Ireland. That's what they're saying. And the simple fact is, she's right. The people in Northern Ireland deserved, an assembly that works for them, who is designed to help the people in Northern Ireland, especially in a cost of living crisis. If a hard border goes up in the island of Ireland, if the protocol is gone, Northern Ireland's economy will, tank just like the rest of Great Britain's has. It's just a sad situation. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, support the channel on Patreon if you can, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.